All right, building psychological safety, the key to high performing teams. Our team, Ricky Porter, Hannah Colston, and Abby Butler. The flow of our workshop will be an introduction and a research overview, an activity, the risk-free zone exercise, a role-playing demonstration, then implications in real-world applications, and lastly, a wrap-up and a call to action. Workshop overview. In this engaging and interactive digital workshop, participants will examine the importance of psychological safety in contemporary workplaces. Our research has shown that when employees feel psychologically safe, they are empowered to be authentic, take creative risks, and collaborate openly, resulting in stronger, more innovative, and resilient teams. Participants will work closely in small groups of 4 to engage in meaningful discussions about key areas designed to enhance understanding and improve psychological safety in workplace settings.
So definitions of psychological safety, we were able to pull two different definitions that give good example of psychological safety for this. The first one comes from Turner and Harder, which states, psychological safe learning environments contain three defining attributes: the ability to make mistakes without consequences, the qualities of the facilitator, and foundational activities such as orientation, preparation, and objectives and expectations. Further to define it is Edmondson, who states that psychological safety is broadly defined as a climate in which people are comfortable expressing and being themselves.
So our research basis goes back to Amy Edmondson's research, first started in 1999, which she continued, and stating that psychological safety is the number one predictor of high-performing teams. This was further iterated by Google's project at Aristotle, where Google found that psychological safety was the top characteristic of the most successful teams. We saw another study in 2018 by Hayter and Turner, finding that psychological safety in the workplace results in higher engagement and increased learning. McClauson's research in 2023 found that leaders should drive an environment of psychological safety in the workplace to create a productive and positive environment.
First up, our activity 1 is called the risk-free zone. So the instructions is your team will role play examples of a boss being supportive and unsupportive of different ideas presented by the team. Round 1 is the unsafe environment. The facilitator plays a critical boss who dismisses ideas, interrupts, and makes negative comments. Round 2 is psychologically safe environment. The facilitator encourages all ideas, thanks participants for sharing, and builds upon suggestions. Following activity, the team will debrief with discussion questions that relate to psychological safety in the workplace. So we're going to start off with round 1. And in both of these rounds, Ricky is going to be the boss, and me and Hannah are going to be the not the boss. I'm trying to think of the word.
Employees.
The employees. We're going to be the employees. So our prompt for both rounds is going to be that Hannah and I have been tasked by Ricky with developing innovative ideas to encourage different teams at work to interact more with one another. And we're going to share our ideas. So are y'all ready?
Yep.
Okay, three, yeah. 2, 1. Okay, so an idea that I kind of had for our teams is once a month we could have a weekly or a monthly team meeting where we all come together. And at the beginning, we could play some sort of game to get to know one another better and just interact with each other in a kind of a fun way so that the environment doesn't feel as
Yeah,
strict.
that's not what we're looking for. I need stuff that's going to be more productive. Yeah, I need you guys connecting, but we don't have time for games. This is work. Like every minute that you fart around is less work that we produce and get out to the big bosses. So games are going to be a no-go. Hannah, do you have a better idea?
I was thinking maybe we form committees so a member from each of our teams can get together for a big project and kind of collaborate to see how we'd active. So we meet as a big committee, discuss initial ideas, then we can break off and have
M-
another committee meeting.
Maybe we can do that, but we already have so many meetings. If we do that, you're going to have to work mandatory overtime for that. It's not going to be something that we're going to be able to do in the regular business day. So yeah, I appreciate the help, but if y'all can't figure it out, I'll figure it out myself.
Well, what if we did something like monthly awards where we recognize people for their hard work?
So everybody gets a trophy because that's what your paycheck is reward for doing your work. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, that's all I need to hear. Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of round one. That was
Make me
good.
feel like a jerk, y'all.
Oh, yeah, you hurt our feelings.
Sorry.
So let's try round two, which is our psychologically safe environment. So in this round, Ricky, you'll encourage ideas and thank participants for sharing and build upon suggestions. So are y'all ready?
Yep.
All right, let's go. Okay, so an idea that I've had to kind of get the teams to interact with one another more is we could start a monthly encouragement partner activity where you're each month you're assigned a person that you kind of encourage and you ask how they're doing, and they could be from a different team than the team you work with, so it kind of bridges those gaps between
I
teams.
really like that. It does help us connect with the different groups, and I don't think it's going to take too much extra time out of like a regular schedule because we're all so close to each other. So I really do like that idea. Just thinking from what the bosses might ask of me, I'll just need you to kind of work on a couple things for me. So when they ask the questions, I'll be able to give them the answers. So like if you could just figure out how we can create an effective schedule or how we'll select individuals, and then maybe give a good example of how that works. I will jazz it up. I'll take it to the boss, and I think it's a wonderful idea. I think that's a great way to bridge the gap between our different divisions.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll work on that. Hannah, do you
Excellent.
have any ideas?
Yeah, so I was thinking maybe we do like an all teams, maybe professional development where we can all do the same activity, bring us in a big group meeting, maybe make a whole day of it, where we can really split up and kind of branch off and create collaborative teams where we're getting in that professional development, but we're seeing what things look like for all of our teams and how they're utilizing maybe a like personality or work strengths assessment.
That's another great idea. You know, we have the required continuing education every year that we have to meet anyways. So I think that's a good way to take care of maybe an 8 hour block of instruction. Um, I did see, talking to one of my friends who runs a company next door, they started a training program that involved having what they call pods. And what they did is they took people from different backgrounds and they put them into these different 5 pods. And in those pods, they were able to answer the same kind of questions. And it became like a monthly thing that they do. So with that professional development, maybe we can develop that kind of program and then continue to let these teams grow together by creating something easy, maybe a breakfast once a month or a 2 hour training session once a month, and it'll help with those hours that you guys need as well.
I think that
So,
sounds great.
yeah, it's excellent. So just if you
Yeah,
wouldn't
I think
mind, just
that's a good way to,
put together a proposal for me on paper so I can send it up to the chain and see what the
yeah,
boss thinks about it.
absolutely. And I'll search for some assessments that might be useful and some activities that kind of have a research basis so we really know it's effective.
Perfect. That's what I like to hear. Thank you guys for working so hard on everything. I know it's been a lot on your plate to try to find extra stuff, but I really do appreciate it. And you're really making the whole team, turn out in a brighter light. So thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Good job. That was good for round two. So now we have a bit of ooh, there we go. We have a debrief and discussion. So we'll talk about how did you feel in each round. So let's talk about the first round. How did y'all feel in the first round, which was the unsafe kind of environment?
Hannah, you kick us off, and then we'll go Hannah, and then Abby, and then I'll talk on my portion of each.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think it's really disheartening, I guess is a word you could say. It really makes me not want to contribute. And like if I'm going to think of something and put, my efforts into creating an idea and it could get shut down, kind of I think, well, why would I do that in the first place if I'm just going to be shut down? So I really don't feel valued as a team member.
Yeah, I agree. It's also like it makes you feel kind of embarrassed because you know that your boss is kind of dismissing you in front of other people. I think a quality in a good boss is the ability to kind of wait and if a team member suggests something that you don't think is a good idea or something that you don't like just to wait and have that discussion with them a bit later rather than putting them down in front of the whole team. So it definitely like kills your motivation to talk.
Yeah, I think just from the readings that we've done so far and some of the leadership examples we've seen, to me, it made me feel horrible. Unfortunately, I've worked with people that are like this, and I'm sure we all have at some point. Um, yeah, while I could be a good role player, it just it is it's it pulls at my heartstrings because as leaders, we are called to lead our people, not push our people. Managers push their
Hmm.
people, leaders bring their people along with the ride. So, you made a good point, Abby, about the criticizing. Any solid leader has been trained that you praise in public and you criticize in private. And
Hmm.
kind of me being put on the spot for the bad boss position, even though it's not real, it still feels, like crap. I don't understand how anybody could talk to another human being like that, let alone people that are supposed to be helping you. So, yeah, I was really not fired up about that. I think that it definitely demotivates the individuals. And when you have a boss that's like that, you don't want to work for them. So
Right.
I'll give a good example and kind of my experience on the next debrief for the positive side. But when I've worked for bosses like this, that's exactly what they were. They were bosses. They weren't leaders, and
Mhm.
it definitely ruins the drive to do more or do better. So
Yeah. So I think we kind of answered, did you feel motivated? Obviously, I don't think any of us felt motivated. And
Nope.
what impact does this have on team performance? I think we can all agree it definitely is negative and it causes people like not to want to respond. It
yeah,
creates a
for sure,
lack of discussion. Would y'all agree?
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely.
I'm just gonna kind of shut down. I'm not gonna want to put kind of that extra mile in for the team because I know that like kind of doing the minimum performance is gonna get me by, and it's
Hmm.
what my boss already thinks I'm gonna do. So if that's what he thinks and isn't willing to, take feedback, then I'm gonna keep performing at a basic minimum level and
Hmm.
not really feel the motivation to increase that and really incre improve our performance.
Absolutely. Yeah. You only respond to the level that you feel appreciated. That's why they started this term quiet quitting, where people just shut their
Hmm.
computers down, don't answer their phones after 5 and leave and go home. You don't want to create an environment like that. If you feel like it's a task to get up and go to work, then you're not in a safe environment.
Yeah. So, how did you guys feel in the second round, the positive round? And we can take turns kind of answering all the questions. So, I guess I'll go first. I felt positive. I felt like Ricky, our boss, cared about us. He was encouraging. I definitely felt motivated to contribute more. And I would say, I like that not only did you encourage us, but then you gave us like follow up tasks to complete, which makes us feel like you do care and you're going to carry through as long as we carry through. And then it just feels like teamwork?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And I'll kind
Yeah,
of go ahead, Hannah. I'm sorry.
yeah, I definitely absolutely agree. Like it felt really nice to feel supported and validated in what we were saying. And like I kind of had the space to talk freely, in kind of in a well, safe environment to where I could share an idea, and if it didn't make sense, you could ask for clarification, and I felt like I could provide that, or I could come up with a new idea that made more sense, and was kind of like motivated to keep sharing, and keep contributing because you were engaging with us and you were like, okay, and how could we do it this way? Or, oh, did you think about it this way? And so it was like you were expanding on the discussion while we were having it, which kind of motivated me to add more to it, and really want to make a good impact on my performance because I could see that you saw that and you kind of were rewarding it, and everybody likes to be rewarded for good performance. And so in doing so, like I'm going to get feedback that's good, so I'm going to keep performing really well and keep wanting to do more.
So for me as a manager, even in my actual current position, this is the type of leadership style that I depend on. So if I'm not receiving it from my higher ups, I try to give it to my people in the best way that I can, and I kind of take the sword, if you will, from the bad bosses.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen through our research and our studying and our writing of this paper in this workshop that when we create an environment where people feel like they're more respected, they can speak freely, they feel more seen, more heard, and it brings back the humanistic side of teamwork. Um, we state in our paper at the foundation of anything, people want to be treated like human beings. So they don't want to be talked to like they're an animal. Because
Mm,
at the end of the day, whether we're an executive or a janitor, we're a person. So we have basic civil rights. So when you create an environment where people can feel seen and heard, whether it's a progression forward or something that needs to be addressed, you can always talk to the people that you're working with in a manner of respect and dignity and make them feel comfortable. We don't want to create a hostile work environment. So for me, in this round, I definitely felt a lot happier, a lot easier to lead. From a leadership standpoint, you feel like when your people are bought in and you can have those open conversations and they feel psychologically safe, you definitely feel better as not only a leader, but as a person because you know that your team will go above and beyond. One of the phrases I talk about when I'm teaching in my role is when you develop a team that trusts you, you're filling a bucket of trust with drops, right? So everything you do that's a positive action is another drop in the bucket, another drop in the bucket. So when you're creating environments like this and you're having conversations, you're filling that bucket up. All it takes is one swift kick to knock it over. So it's also a good accountability measure for us to watch as leaders how we're treating our people. So we want to build that trust bucket and keep filling it up. It makes you feel good as a leader. It makes the team feel good as a group. So I really appreciate the opportunity to explore this because from a management side, I get to see the different responses on that. So for me, the biggest thing is the impact of positive leadership uh, in that aspect that we tried in scenario two is you actually build a team. Whether people realize it or not, is if you're working a vocation for 8 hours a day and you're traveling, you're spending more time with your work peers than you are with your family most of the time. So
yeah,
it's very important to build that team aspect and make people feel welcome and appreciated. Not coddling, and I think we addressed it later on in the slideshow. It's not a lack of accountability. Um, but even in a time where things are negative, where things like correction need to come, there's a psychologically safe way to do it.
absolutely. Yeah, I love that. We talk about trust a lot at my job and how you're able to have hard conversations if you have trust with the person you're talking to.
Absolutely. And they don't feel like they
Mhm.
just got beat up.
No, at
That's a
least
nice
you
thing.
love that person. Yeah, you care about them. So
Exactly.
that's good. Okay, so our next thing, safe versus unsafe leadership. Our instructions scenario, your team role plays a realistic workplace conversation between managers and employees. The employees realize they made a mistake on a recent project. During the role playing activity, employees share their concerns with the employer. So, one version shows a toxic, fear based team where people are afraid to admit mistakes. And the second version demonstrates psychological safety, where the leader encourages open dialogue, constructive feedback, and learning from failure. So, once again, Ricky is going to be the boss, and Hannah and I are going to be the employees. And so, we'll begin with the toxic version. So, what Hannah and I had discussed is we're going to kind of pretend that we've just realized we've messed up and we're having this conversation, and the boss kind of enters in on that conversation. Does that sound good to y'all?
Sound good?
All right. Hannah, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Abby, the project that was due tomorrow, I think I've done the data wrong. Like I'm not sure if I should say something and ask for an extension or ask to make sure I've done it correctly or not correctly. Like, what do you think I should do? We put so much work into this.
Honestly, I think that we should kind of maybe stay up and try to fix it because I don't think the boss is going to handle it too
Okay.
well.
Hold on, ladies. Hold on. I've been in the room for a second. I've kind of heard this. This is a problem. This is a very big problem. You do realize that I'm not paying you to stay up late and work on something that you messed up. It's going to cost this company thousands of dollars if this project isn't turned in, and it could roll over to millions of dollars if the beginning of this project is wrong. So I can't believe you could be so incompetent that you didn't double check your work the day before a due date. This is absolutely ridiculous. You better get it fixed. I'm not paying you to work overtime. You mess this problem up on the clock, you could fix it off the clock.
Well, we would be happy to fix it and we'll definitely work on it, but we really did work hard on this project and we are very sorry that
Work,
it
you
got
worked very hard in the wrong direction. I don't care how hard you think you worked. If you did it wrong, we are we are messed up. We're going to lose money on this. So yes, you will fix it. You'll absolutely fix it today. Do you understand?
Yes,
You
sir.
got it. We'll get right on that.
Okay. That was the toxic version, obviously.
Hmm.
So now we'll do the second version, which will kind of start off in the same way. So it demonstrates psychological safety. So Hannah, do you want to start off again?
Yeah, yeah. Abby, I think I did the data wrong. I'm not really sure for that project that's due tomorrow. Like, it just feels like it's not right.
Mhm.
Maybe we should ask the boss. Like, maybe we could get another day to, or maybe he could ask for some clarification just because the numbers are looking kind of funky.
Yes, I think we should. We definitely should ask him. I think he'll be understanding, and I know that he's our boss, so he'll help us out and he'll help lead us. He'll answer
Hey,
our questions.
hey, ladies, sorry to interrupt. I didn't mean to. I've been on just for a few minutes, and I heard we got a little bit of a possible issue with the statistics. Is that correct?
Yes,
All
that's
right.
Yeah, they're coming out kind of high and not that they couldn't be, but they just seem kind of off and I'm not sure if my calculations are correct. So I was gonna send you the numbers I was using. Like, could you take a look at them?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's what I'll do. Send the numbers over to me. I know it's after work and I know we're coming up on the end of the day, but it is an important project. So what I'll do is I'm going to look at I'm going to look at the stats. As you know, I used to do your position, so I got a working knowledge of how to pull them. I'll look and see if there is a shortcoming or be able to fix it. If it's good to go, then we'll continue with the meeting tomorrow. But I'm going to go ahead and let the boss know. Um, that I had an issue on my end and I need to address something beforehand. And he won't even know that the numbers are messed up if you did happen to mess something up. So just give me a few minutes to contact him, let him know I'm working on something, and then go ahead and send those numbers to me and I'll get back to you. I know it's after work and I don't mind paying you for the extra time afterwards. Mistakes happen. So if you don't mind doing that for me, I'll make sure that we put it on your check for you or get you time off, and then I'll make sure that the stats are either correct or that we have an opportunity to address them first thing in the morning, uh, so that we can move forward with the meeting.
Yeah, and I'll get those right over to you. And I'm gonna try to recalculate them, maybe I in a new way to see if the same thing's coming up.
Yeah, if you'll do
And
that, I'll have Abby. I'm sorry to interrupt. I don't mean to interrupt you. I know what you got to say is important, so I apologize. But I wanted to make sure that you send those to Abby as well. So I'll have her put
yeah,
another set of eyes on them. And then we'll all come back together. I'll just text you ladies and let you know if anything's off. You're very good at what you do, so I have no reason to believe that your work is wrong. But let's just double check it tonight. And Abby, if you
Mhm.
could take a look at those too, I
Yeah,
think that'd be good.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for understanding, and we'll get those sent over.
Hey, it happens. Thank y'all
yeah,
so much for the
absolutely.
help. I appreciate
Hey
it.
guys, good job. So that was the safe version. So let's look at our kind of key takeaways for this. Hannah, do you want to read this slide?
Yeah, I got this.
Okay.
So psychological safety does not mean a lack of accountability. It means fostering an environment where people feel free to feel comfortable speaking up and taking risks. So in that role play example, we kind of saw that though I made a mistake with the data or think I've made a mistake with the data, I'm still being held accountable. They're going to double check me. If it's wrong, we're going to have a conversation about how we can improve and fix it. But it's mainly focusing on the fact that we're all human, we make mistakes and we can grow from them. So taking every kind of mistake and thinking about it as a learning opportunity is really what's important in a psychologically safe environment is we're not making mistakes that are the end all be all, even if, it might impact a deadline, we might get something in late. But at the end of the day, it's important we learn so that for the next time we can fix it and creating that space where somebody feels comfortable to have that conversation. And our leaders kind of set the tone for those conversations. And managers who model vulnerability and inclusivity create stronger teams. So, in that kind of role play example, Ricky was willing to kind of take the fall for the boss, even above him, for a mistake that I made as a member of his team, but also managers admitting that they've made a mistake. So, if we kind of reversed it and Ricky had calculated some data wrong, him being like, hey, I made a mistake. Sorry, I gave you some wrong information. Like, let me fix it for you so that your work can be corrected. So not being afraid to admit that and have those conversations up front and being proactive about it as a leader is really important because it'll flow from the top down.
That's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would say something that I want to note is that you get the same results whether you're like in a situation like this, there's something that needs to be fixed, and you can choose to be a good leader and have a good attitude about it, or a bad leader and have a bad attitude about it. At the end of the day, there's still a mistake that needs to be fixed. So I think that's why it's so important in those moments for our leaders to look at this and think, how can I make sure that I am prioritizing my team's psychological safety and how they feel in this situation.
Yeah, it goes back to that trust bucket. If you freak out because a mistake happened, that's humanistic,
Mm,
and you make one bad leadership call, you've tipped that bucket over. Now you've lost some of that trust. So
absolutely.
all about reaching the goal together and completing the task. So yeah, I agree.
I think we might be cutting it close here with the time. I'm not able to see the time. Are y'all?
I think we're right over 20 minutes, so we should be good to wrap it up. If you want to go through our last little couple, we'll.
Yeah, Ricky, do you want to read this one?
Yeah, so implications and real world applications. How do we build psychological safety as a team? Number one, Edmondson in 2018 showed us that team members should feel like they can make mistakes. We're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. There's not a single person on this earth that is perfect. So creating an environment where employees know that they can make mistakes, but they're willing to improve to not make that mistake again is a psychologically safe environment. Also, leaders set the tone and model the behavior of positive work environments. So McCausland said that in 2023. And I think it just gives to the fact that it is our responsibility as leaders to make sure that our people feel safe. And if we expect them to react in a respectful tone, and be open and honest with us, then we have to be able to do the same as leaders.
Absolutely. All right, where this applies. So, encourage vulnerability. Leaders should lead by example, admitting their own mistakes. Model active listening. Leaders should practice using phrases like, tell me more about that, or what do you think, rather than dismissing team members. Reinforce positive risk taking. Recognize and reward team members who share ideas or challenge the status quo. Use check ins and retrospectives. Start meeting. Is there anything on your mind? And create spaces for feedback. So where this applies, business teams encourages innovation and collaboration. Law enforcement and first responders improves debriefing and crisis management. Healthcare teams can reduce medical errors by fostering open communication. And obviously, if your line of work is not in one of these categories, this is also still really solid advice just about how to be a good leader in general. So we have our conclusion, which Hannah, do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. So kind of some key takeaways you can discuss as a team when you're discussing psychological safety and whether you have it, if you don't have it, ways you can improve it, is how can you as a team work to bring forth a positive environment? So what are things you're already doing? What are things you could increase? Ways to interact as a team to really bring morale up. How can you practice holding one another accountable in a productive, non-judgmental way? So is this kind of an anonymous feedback form, a biweekly meeting, a weekly report where you're, going through tasks you're completing, the progress on them, and what that can look like for your team and ways you're already implementing or want to implement it. And how can leadership use the skills we have practiced today to foster an environment that cares about the psychological safety of its workers? So really taking the feedback and discussion and what you talked about in these activities and how leadership can use them in the real world. And so in your day-to-day work lives. So is it a skill of active listening? Is it a skill of being vulnerable and admitting mistakes from leader to where then team members under them feel that way? Or really having that collaborative feedback space, ways to incorporate that in the everyday work. And we've also linked a psychological safety worksheet. So this is a link that you can click on and it will allow you to fill out responses to see kind of where you think and your perspective on the psychological safety of your team is. So you could do this previous to the activity to kind of gauge, or you can even do it post. So maybe a before and after to see how kind of you feel things have changed after you've had these role-playing conversations and really seen the perspective of the team.
Awesome. Ricky, do you have any final things you want to share? Or Hannah, you have any final thoughts?
I think it's just like the key takeaway is this can be implemented, as we mentioned before. Some of the examples were from like law enforcement and medical fields, but this can be implemented on anything from a McDonald's fast food shift to a corporate executive office. And it's important to understand the detriment of not working with something like this. If you're working in a toxic environment and you're failing to change that environment as a leader, we're not going to succeed in whatever your goal is. Keeping the environment psychologically safe is going to be the best way to increase productivity and accomplish your mission in a faster and more positive way, which is why we poured our passion into this project. And we hope that you have taken something beneficial from it to take back to your workplace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And wrapping it up, we have our works cited. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching our presentation.